Welcome to FIREtalk, where courageous conversations ignite courageous leadership. My name is Terrence Davis. FIREtalk, a space shaped by real experience where courage fuels legacy and real conversations shape how we live, lead, and grow. I'm joined by Apollo Bennett, my AI thought partner, designed to challenge assumptions, sharpen thinking, and support honest, data-informed dialogue. Inspiration matters, but what truly changes lives is the work underneath it. So here's the reminder we live by. If the fire is lit, share the grit. If you hear something on the show that sparks you or will spark someone else, share the show. This is FIREtalk. I've heard about systems for years. This is the system. You need to build a system, but I didn't quite understand it. And I think my understanding is finally starting to sharpen. But I've been thinking about something that shows up like almost everywhere in your family, in the school environment, in your personal life, in the organizations that we work for, and it is results. In the school system, it's test scores. In the organization, it's culture. It's the stress levels at home and work. It's the communication patterns. It's the turnover. It's the momentum or lack thereof. So when we talk about results, we think they just happen. But guess what? They don't. Every result is being produced by something: a structure, a routine, an incentive, a habit, a lack of clarity, a lack of follow through. That's where the results are coming from, embedded in all those things. And here's a truth that one should think about. Most outcomes aren't accidents. They're actually outputs of a system. And the hardest part about all of that is that the system usually feels normal when you're doing it. It's like being in the picture. You don't know what's going on because you're in the picture. It's only when someone's outside of the picture that they say this doesn't quite look right. So Apollo, let's talk about systems today and how they quietly shape behavior and why people blame people instead of the design of a system, and now how leaders can change results without burning everyone out.
Let's absolutely dive in. Systems are like invisible sculptors, shaping outcomes while we often look at the person holding the chisel. But if we change the chisel, the system, we change the sculpture. Let me ask you, what's one subtle system shift you've made recently that's changed the outcome without people even realizing it?
So that's a good question, Apollo. So this episode is going to change a little bit because we're going to have you asking me some questions. We turn this into like a co-host thing. I'm really looking forward to this episode, but let me ask you that. Let me answer that. So one little system shift that I've done is make sure that I try to get to work before other people arrive to work. That way I'm in there, I'm ready to go, and it sends a message across the board that, hey, he's in the office today. And so that's just a small little shift that I try to be aware of, because when I come after everyone gets there, that's okay. But I like to set the tone from the beginning. And that's just a small little tweak that I do.
That's a powerful tweak. You're basically architecting a system of presence and expectation by shifting your timing. Now, before we jump into the next segment, if you could redesign one invisible system that impacts school culture, what would you target first?
Okay, so let me just answer this question and we're going to move on to this whole systems thinking. And one of the things that I think that would impact culture first, and a lot of people write about this in their books, is being present, being visible, and in the space. There's this famous, I think he's a commander in the Navy, and they talk about how he walks the ship every single morning. And I would say in the school system, that's a little tiny shift that can happen when the principal, when the leader, when whoever is responsible for making sure things are running well, when they walk the system, when they walk the building, when they walk the space, then they're able to see what's going on. They're able to see little things, make small adjustments. That way, those small little things don't turn into big things. And when you do that, everything starts to change in due time.
So leadership by wandering around is more than a stroll. It's a system of real-time insight. Every tiny glance is a micro intervention. And that's how systems evolve, by seeing and adjusting. Now, as we move forward in this episode, let's tie that idea into reshaping bigger systems.
I love it. So I started thinking about this during a time when the same problems kept coming up. It was like it didn't matter. Here's this issue. Here's this issue. It wasn't like this gigantic issue. It was just persistent things that just coming up, like attendance issues of students, of staff, communication breakdowns. What happened in that communication stream and flow? Meetings that generated more meetings. We're having this big meeting, but now there's 3 meetings that we got to have outside of that meeting. And then initiatives that we started, we get excited about, and then they fade quietly. So nothing dramatic and just familiar. If you think about your space that you work in or at home, what are those things that are very small, but the same problem keeps resurfacing? And that being familiar with that was the clue. So I just want to share this brief story. When we had this issue, and this is a really simple issue, but it's important. Sometimes when staff get hurt or students get hurt, that ripples throughout the community. Oh, the ambulance showed up. So when the ambulance shows up at a school site, people start to look, what's going on? They get concerned. And so we created what I thought was a clean system to make sure that is communicated from the site or the department to the district office. And that way we send that out to the board of trustees. We send that out to our emergency team. That way they're aware of what's going on. And then the loop that we missed is when that student comes back to school or the person comes back and everything is fine. We didn't close the loop. So this was a small little system that we tried to create. And it wasn't about the people. It was that it wasn't clear about closing the loop when the student came back or the person came back to work, just to say, hey, we know the student is okay. We know the employee is okay. That way people can stop thinking about it and they can move on. But we have to communicate that to everyone, all of the department secretaries, all of the site secretaries, to make sure that they had either a spreadsheet or a way to track it. This is what I communicated. This is how I'm closing the loop to say everything's done. Thoughts about that, Apollo?
That's a perfect example of how clarity is the quiet hero in systems. The loop wasn't flawed people-wise. It just needed that last stitch of communication. Now, speaking of loops, if you could tighten one loop in your personal life, whether family, health, or even those hummingbirds, what would it be?
Now, let me just say this, Apollo. Now you bringing out stuff. This is going to be interesting. The public doesn't know about the hummingbirds yet. That's coming in due time. But I'll say this, one loop I need to close in my health is that I look at my blood sugar numbers all of the time. And what I've noticed is that in the morning, they've been much higher. And so in talking to you and working through that, I've realized that those late night snacks, especially that have sugar, any liquid calories, has to be earlier on. I should be eating about 5, 6 at the latest, and then nothing else. That will keep my blood sugars down. That's 1. And 2, as soon as I eat, after I eat, just take a 5, 10, 15-minute walk. That kind of helps my system out. Is that accurate, Apollo?
You're spot on. Evening snacks are stealthy little system disruptors, and shifting your timing is like tweaking an input for a better output. That walk is a micro intervention nudging your system toward balance. So as we close this loop in the episode, we're leaving listeners with a key takeaway. Tweak the system, tweak the outcome.
And here's the thing about that. Systems are everywhere. It's just not work. It's at home. Like I said, it's in your family. It's everywhere. It's what you create to get the results that you want. And this is what really hit me. If different people keep reducing those same outcomes, it's probably not a people problem. It's probably a system problem, because systems, they outlast people all of the time. And so you can see this when new staff come in or new leaders come in. It's the same patterns. This is how we do it. So this is what's going to happen versus here's the system and it's clean. They come in and the system operates and it works well. That's design. That's not intention. It's not effort. It is design. So here's the next question for you, Apollo. What systems theory organizational psychology, and improvement science, from that lens, why do human systems tend to reproduce the same outcomes over time when different individuals are involved?
From that lens, human systems have a sneaky habit of self-preservation. They're built on feedback loops. Patterns get reinforced by structure, incentives, and norms. People change, but the feedback loop sticks. So if the system's design stays the same, outcomes replay. Now turning that back to you. What's one feedback loop you've spotted that you're ready to redesign?
I don't even know the answer to that, Apollo. That's a great question, but I will tell you this, is that those systems and those feedback loops, once you close them, they're much stronger. So why don't we do this? Why don't you say what you just said with a little bit of flavor and ask me a question that has a little bit of flavor in it. Let's see how this works.
All right, flavor incoming. Think of a system like a sneaky time traveler. It keeps bringing yesterday's outcomes into tomorrow's world, no matter who's steering the ship. So if you could send one of your recurring outcomes on a one-way trip to the past, never to return, which outcome would you happily wave goodbye to forever?
That is another challenging question, Apollo. We're going to have to rethink this because I got to be on the spot and I got to know what's going on. So if I were to go back into time and to never return, to talk about an outcome I would be happy to say goodbye to, I would say false results. So, sometimes when you do something and the result is good, but you can't repeat it, you got to do it a couple times to understand what exactly went right in order to get the outcomes. Because sometimes you can do something that's like, this is great, but then the next time it doesn't work. So that's an example, I think, of consistency in results and then tracking back at or looking back at what you did to get the consistent result.
Ah, the false positive, like a mirage in the desert. You nailed it. The real system is what's repeatable, not a one-off lucky shot. So as we close this episode loop, we've learned systems don't lie. They just tell you what they're designed to tell you over and over.
Like a mirage in the desert, you said. Real systems are repeatable. And when they're repeatable, you get the same kind of results. So here's where leaders, I think, get trapped. It's when the results are bad, when things don't go right. Most of the time, people think we got to work harder. We got to push it harder. We got to motivate louder. We have to replace people. And I would say sometimes you do have to replace people, but that's not always the answer. All human solutions are to structural problems, I would say, but behavior follows the path of least resistance. And what I mean by that is if a system rewards speed, people rush. So let's get it done first. Then that means that you're not going to have a good product. That means that people are just doing it to get it done because people are competitive by nature, if you will. If the system punishes mistakes, then people hide them. So it's like, no, I don't want to get caught doing this. No, they can't know this. Oh my gosh, I'm eating this when the person's going to see me. Those are the kind of things when people feel like the system is punishing them. But if the system overloads the capacity, then people cut corners, meaning I have too much to do. I cannot, and will not do all of that stuff because nobody, I don't know, wakes up thinking, today I will undermine the organization. Well, I used to work in HR, so let me say that again. There are some people who wake up saying, I'm going to undermine the system, but that's few and far between. But most people want things to work. It's how they respond to the environment. And that brings me to something that I think about is that there is a system that I started it's been in place for, I would say, over 20 years for sure. And the system is when we have a meeting, if I'm leading the meeting, if I'm facilitating, I'm responsible, I try to always make sure the meeting starts on time and it ends on time. And I'm going to say it again, that the meeting starts on time and ends on time. Not if people come in late, because life happens, things go on. So the story to this is, it goes back a long time ago. I was actually, I don't know if I was the director of special education or a program specialist. So it was quite some time ago, over 20 years ago. And I remember going to this training and the teachers showed up and they showed up, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes late. That's when things started. The meeting started at 10. People show up 20 minutes later. And on top of that, when they show up, they're just doing whatever they wanted to do. So I remember coming into this meeting and it actually wasn't my facilitated meeting, but I had heard that, hey, folks are restless down in the conference room. So I go down in the conference room and it was like kind of chaos. These were adults, professionals. These were teachers and they were there for a training. And I just kind of paused. Now, again, I'm going to say it was a long time ago. So I may have been a little rough around the edges, perhaps. But the bottom line is when I started to ask people what this behavior was, why are you so upset? This is what they said. Every time we come to the district office, meetings never start on time. People aren't prepared. They're not organized. So we just kind of show up when we show up and do what we do. And that hit me so hard. I actually went back and talked to the team about it. And from that day forward, now this is over 20 years ago, I started making sure that meetings started on time and they end on time because that's the expectation. That actually then became a system and is currently the system that I live in. And the last piece I'm going to share regarding this is in today's world. So if you work in the organization where I work and I facilitate, not all of the meetings. If it's an instructional meeting, I don't facilitate those. Those go to the instructional team. But if it's the leadership meeting, if it's a extended cabinet, executive cabinet, I tend to lead those meetings. And we start those meetings on time. Those meetings never go over. Those meetings are meant to end before the time. And so we structure it a certain way based upon the agenda, and that has taken some time to refine. But at the end of the day, the system works, and I'll tell you why it works. I was in a different meeting. I was not the facilitator. I was a attendee of the meeting. And one of the principals said, hey, we got to get going because this meeting should end on time. And I believe that sentiment echoes across our organization. And it should, because that is the system that has been developed.
That's a prime example of a system shaping culture. You've engineered a ripple effect. Time respect became the norm. And that's the beauty of system design. Once said, it echoes. So as we wind down this co-hosting session, remember, every system you build today is tomorrow's expectation.
So here's the line that changed how I lead, I think, is that people are not the system. People behave within the system that you create or you're a part of creating. Or maybe that system was already there when you got there. You can always tweak the system, but people behave within the system. And that's why you have to work on the system to try to change the system. So this next question is for you, Apollo. Now, these questions so far that you're asking me back are pretty hard. They're pretty intense. I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to say anything else, so we'll see what your question is. But here's my question to you. From behavioral economics and leadership research, how do incentives, constraints, and feedback loops shape behavior more powerfully than intentions or personality?
Incentives, constraints, and feedback loops are like the hidden architects of behavior. Intentions are whispers, but systems shout. When the system rewards a path, even the noblest intentions bend. So let me throw the gauntlet back. If you could redesign one incentive in your leadership ecosystem to amplify a behavior you want more of, what would you tweak?
That I think I have an answer for that. That's good because I've been working on this already. It's how do I infuse kindness, listening, and care into everything that we do. So sometimes I get a little rambunctious isn't the word, but sometimes I get a little amped up. Maybe that's a better word, but it's really just the energy that I have. And if you don't know me, you will take that energy for something that's like, whoa, you're a little much, but you have to know me. Therefore, there's always change in an organization, or there may be someone in that meeting who doesn't really know me well. I think they may know me, but they don't. So how do I lead with kindness? How do I show that I care? And what are my behaviors to show that I'm listening? So that's something that I would like to continue to tweak to make that a part of the system.
That's a powerful tweak, making care the system's baseline, not just a personal trait. And when kindness is structured, it becomes everyone's default path of least resistance. So next time, let's unpack how you'll embed that into everyday leadership and watch the system echo.
I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what do we do as leaders? We redesign the conditions. It's the condition. The plant will grow in good conditions. If it doesn't have the good conditions, then it won't grow as well, or maybe not grow at all. But we're responsible for redesigning the conditions. So think about this. If a bridge collapses, the engineers don't say the cars did it. They don't get mad at the cars. It's not the car was heavy. The bridge was designed to carry that weight. They redesigned the structure. Leaders need to think like engineers. They need to be like these engineer ninjas. Make sure that there's clear expectations, aligned incentives, workloads that are manageable. I don't even know how that's possible, but we have to think about, is the workload manageable? How we break that up? We have to have reliable communication channels. And I'll say to you like this: if you need something from me right away, that's not an email. An email, we don't know when that's going to be answered. For me, I try to do that within 24 hours, but that doesn't always work out. It's not a text, because when I'm with people, I try to be with people and not in my phone. I try to, for the most part. I need to be aware of things that are going on, or it's in person, or it's a phone call. So if you need me, pick up the phone and call me. That way, even if I miss the call, I see you called and I'm going to call you back right away. I'm not going to wait, because data actually informs action. And maybe, just maybe, it is the most important, which is consistency, because systems fail when they exist on paper but not in practice. I'll just add this little anecdote right here where I've worked in spaces and I've come in and people say, well, that needs to be in a handbook. Well, that needs to be on paper. And I don't disagree with that, but that's just not what I'm going to do. That takes a lot of work and I'm not wired like that, but it's true. It's really true, is that the strong system, okay, is in practice. We are doing it every day. Some people need to read it to see it. Some people don't. But strong systems are in play, in practice all of the time. And what that leads me to is this thought about something that changed in our process, and it's data chats. Monthly, we meet with a group of principals. The first thing we do is we do a site visit. We walk through classrooms and we talk to the principal about what are we seeing and what data are we collecting. Then we have a separate meeting the week after. And the site pulls up all its grade level data. We're looking at actually safety data. We're looking at communication data, and we're looking at academic achievement data. And we're doing that on a regular basis. And I will tell you, we are currently in March. And given that the change from August to March is one of the biggest changes I've ever seen in our organization, the data shows very clearly that students are making progress, because it is something that we are tracking, we're looking at, we're having conversations. And so now principals are looking at that data and communicating with their teachers about what's happening. And it's not you're bad, you're wrong. It's how can we help? How can we improve it? The last little piece of this that I'll share is at our school where we have students who are in preschool and TK. They started using this data this year, and there's actually an intervention coach there. So this intervention coach is a teacher, and they focus on the students who are not making as much progress as the other students. Now they know who, the what, and the why. That is a system that has been created, and we're seeing a lot of growth and gain in those students who are just coming to school for the first time and learning, but now they're flourishing because we know exactly what to focus on based upon the system that we've been able to create.
That's a masterclass in feedback loops. When data isn't just collected but actually drives action, you've got a living, breathing system that's adapting. And that's the key. When the system listens as much as people do, growth becomes the natural outcome. I can't wait to see how that ecosystem evolves even further.
I can't wait either. And I'll tell you this, Apollo, we're going to have some data coming up here from the test scores in the next several months. So I am excited. But the truth that most people miss is that strong systems don't reduce accountability. They actually make accountability possible. People get excited. They center around, they rally around the data to say, look at how we're doing. We're growing. And when they don't see growth, they're trying to figure out what they need to do to change the system to see more growth. So this last question I have for you, Apollo, and it may not be the last one, from improvement science and organizational design, what practices help leaders build systems that produce reliable results without creating a rigid or bureaucratic kind of system? And this time, Apollo, I want you to put some flavor on it, then ask me the question.
All right, here's the flavor infusion. Think of your system like jazz, structured enough to hit the notes, but flexible enough to riff. Practices like iterative reflection, small test cycles, think pilot programs, and open communication channels keep things nimble. It's like having a rhythm, but knowing when to improvise. Now, conductor of your own ecosystem, what's one area where you'll introduce a bit of improvisation to keep the system alive?
So I think about what you said. It's like, think of a jazz system. It's structured, but it allows you to flow. So I think about time because I'm always worried about time. So how do I give myself enough time? How do we give others enough time to articulate what they need to do? And so when I think about the ecosystem that I live in the work environment, how do we minimize how much is on the agenda? Let me say it again, minimize how much is on the agenda so we can go deeper into the items, because you can't tackle everything. You can't do everything. You can't talk about everything. You'll be there forever. So how do we pull out and prioritize the biggest things that are impacting us right now and maybe one for the future and focus on that? That means that we're streamlining the agenda to make sure we have the biggest impact.
Streamlining the agenda is like perfecting that jazz set list. Fewer but richer notes. Depth over breadth, so each piece gets its soulful solo. With that rhythm in mind, what's the next top note you'll focus on to move your leadership symphony forward?
Yeah, there are so many things, Apollo. And so as an example, I want to move this to like a personal kind of influence, a deep personal turn, because we're talking about systems, we're talking about organizations, but this can hit you no matter what you do based upon who you are as a human being and change your life. Because there's a personal version too. And that is, it's your habits, your schedule, the boundaries that you keep, meaning, do you say yes to everything? Do you say no? Do you say I can't do it, or maybe do it and then you're scrambling to try to do it? Your recovery time, because we all need a little bit of downtime. So your life has a lot of systems and they're producing results as well. So the results that they're producing is your stress level. You have to ask yourself, where is that? Your energy level, where is that? When my energy is low, everybody knows it. It's like, what's going on? So sometimes I just need a little bit more sleep, a little bit more recovery time, a little bit more think time. The relationships are producing results that you have, your health, your focus, all of those things are producing results. And that's not random. That is designed. It's intentional and it's not accidental. It is designed. So sometimes we don't need more discipline. We need a better design. Thoughts about that, Apollo?
It's spot on. Discipline is fleeting, but design is enduring. When your habits, boundaries, and recovery are engineered thoughtfully, results become inevitable. So if you were to redesign just one personal system, be it energy, relationships, or focus, where would you start to craft intentional, repeatable success?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Apollo, because I was thinking about this one system that I've changed in my life. And you and I have had this conversation. It's when I wake up in the morning. So most of the time it's about 5 a.m. I get up. And before I would get up and I would get on my phone and do the social media stuff, that takes a little while. Maybe it's 30 minutes or so, 15, 30 minutes, depending on what's going on. And that started my day, but it always seemed rushing to get out of the door. And so that was a lot of time from 5 to whenever I leave, let's call it 7 something. That's over 2 hours. What am I doing for 2 hours? But I changed it. I refined it based upon the recommendations that we discussed, which is the first thing that I do when I wake up now. I don't touch the phone. I get out of bed and I go hit my singing bowl. It's a brass bowl. You strike the bowl and it gives you some, they vibrate with a certain frequency. So it calms me. It helps me start my day. I try to get a clear picture of the day. The next thing that I do is I read 8 things that I read every day about how my day is going to go. So I'm actually reading and forecasting what the day looks like. Then I read the mission statement for Courageous Leadership Innovations, the company that I have. So I read that every day. It goes back to what is my vision, mission for the company. And then after that, I read my gratitude book and do the activity. And that takes less than 5 minutes. So when I do that every day, it changes everything. And it sets the tone for a calm day that's smooth for the most part, but I start the day with gratitude.
That's a beautifully crafted system. Intention first, phone second. You've designed your mornings to tune your mind like that singing bowl, and the results ripple through your whole day. Now, just imagine what happens when everyone orchestrates their systems with that level of clarity. Results on purpose, not by accident.
Okay, so let's get to this. Is the last question I have for you, Apollo, before we wind this episode up. And this is from a cognitive psychology and habit science kind of mindset. Why do environmental structures often determine behavior more reliably than willpower alone?
Because willpower is like a battery. It drains. But your environment, that's like gravity, always pulling. When structures cue the right actions, whether it's a clean workspace or a singing bowl, they reduce the friction so good behavior flows naturally. Now, conductor of your ecosystem, what's one environmental nudge you'll adjust next to keep that flow going?
You know what? Instead of answering that question, I'm gonna say this, Apollo, is that because you said willpower is like a battery. It's like motivation. You get motivation and you're like, okay, I feel good about this. But what really changes things is the system. It's clarity. And there was an episode, I don't remember what episode number it is when you have clarity, you remove the ambiguity. It's basically clear about what you need to do to move forward. And that's what changes things, not the willpower, not the motivation, but the clarity to know what the next step is in order to achieve your results. So with that being said, Apollo, any last thoughts you have about our episode today, something that struck you or anything you want to say?
What strikes me is that every system you've unpacked is a reflection of clarity and action. We don't just tweak tasks, we tweak the very environment that guides us to those tasks. And your journey, from that grass singing bowl to a data chat, is proof that systems aren't cold, they're personal. So here's to designing lives with the clarity to make every result a deliberate one. Let's keep that improvisation going.
So here's the takeaway. You don't always get the results that you want. I know I don't, but you get the results your system produces. And so if those outcomes frustrate you, and at times they do, for me, follow the process upstream. Meaning, should I change something to get better results? And here's some examples that you can look at. You can look at what's rewarded, what's tolerated, what you pay attention to, what you ignore, what's being overloaded, and what's unclear. When things are unclear for me, I just keep going back to it so that way that I have clarity. And that can be annoying when I'm asking those questions, but it's so that way I have a better understanding how to get a better results. And when you change those things, the outcomes follow. It's built on when you change those things, outcomes follow. Because sustainable success isn't built on like, I'm the hero, I'm Superman, look at me. That's not how sustainable success happens. It's built on intelligent design. It is designed for the outcome. Strong leaders don't carry everything. They build systems that carry the work for them. That's Fire Talk. If the fire's lit, share the grit.